A single lamp holds infinite hope. The beauty of a lamp is its light that dispels the darkness. This light is the light of the soul that removes the negativity, the darkness within and around. The beauty of the soul comes from pure thoughts, peaceful words, and benevolent actions. The light of the Supreme Light, the Supreme Soul, can ignite many lamps and heal and restore to a new beginning. The Festival of Lights is a celebration and a reminder to always be ignited and connected to the Supreme Light. Celebrate the ignited living light within.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special program of Ignited Living Lamp. And Sister Veronica is with us. I see her. Sister Wadi, we call her Sister Wadi. And Sister Wadi, welcome to this evening special celebration of the series Living Ignited Lamp. And I know you are really increasing your flame day by day, and really you're a friend. It reminds me of your 3 visits to Dallas, and it was very memorable visits. But today's visit is going to be a unique one, and because we're going to hear your experience, and I'm sure that everyone would enjoy, and I welcome you to join with us. And Sister Nima or Sister Jyoti will read your bio first, and then you can start sharing.
Thank you, Ranjan Ben.
Good evening, everyone. Greetings of love. Welcome, Sister Veronica.
Thank you.
Sister Veronica is the director of Brahma Kumaris in Florida. She is a yogi who has maintained her serious yoga practice for more than 40 years. Her warmth and friendliness brings an instant sense of belonging to all who meet her. Sister Veronica has been a spiritual student and a teacher for 40 years. She is the coordinator of the Brahma Kumaris work in Florida. She has spoken at numerous events in South Florida and throughout the world. She has been an active member of Images and Voices of Hope in South Florida since the first conversation was convened over 17 years ago. She's also involved internationally as an Images and Voices of co-team member and has participated in the Images and Voices of Hope events throughout the world. Thank you. And now I pass it over to Sister Ranjan.
Yes, so now Hindi, those who want Hindi translation, जिसको Hindi translation चाहिए, वो Russian language choose करे. Okay, now, Sister Wadi, we are waiting to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjan Ben. Ranjan Ben for me is a wonderful sample of the practicing of what it is that the Brahma Kumaris teach. And she does things very quietly and in a very incognito way, and not with any great show or looking for spotlight. But I'm always in awe of her when I come to Dallas and see what she has created and what she has maintained, and that it comes from a really, really sincere place. And of course, as well as Baba, that is the Supreme, I know that like myself, that she too, I need to see faces here, that she too has been greatly influenced by Daddy Janki. And perhaps most of you know by now that Daddy was the head of the organization. Certainly not when I first met her, she wasn't. But she left us in March of this year, and then the whole world changed. Was it just a coincidence? Perhaps. I'm not going to attribute everything that happened after that to Daddy's leaving. But again, being the quality of soul that she was, in the image and likeness of God, then there has to be great significance connected with the chosen time of her departure. And I think that for one who is a yogi of that caliber, then they understand everything. And not least, they understand time and the importance of time. They know when to come, they know when to go. Instantly reminds me of a story about Daddy when she was in Miami. This is back pre 9/11, when you could accompany passengers, into the terminal with no restrictions. And so the students from the Miami Center had gone to see Daddy off, and we were at the bottom of the escalator. Daddy was going up, and there was a brother Rick was with her, and we were all standing at the bottom. And you know how that is when you love someone, you want to wait until they completely move, disappear almost before you leave. And so we were at the bottom of the stairs, the escalator, waiting for Daddy to turn around and wave to us just one more time. And the brother noticed, and he said to Daddy, as she's going up the escalator, or the escalator's taking her up, he said, "Daddy, they're all down there, they're waiting for you to wave." And Daddy said to him very succinctly, "I never look back." So in other words, she had accomplished what she had come to Miami to accomplish, or she trusted that whatever it was that God had wanted her to do there had been taken care of. Now she had to give her intellect to the next destination, to wherever she was going next. And so this was that caliber of soul. And so again, like me, I know that that is a primary influence in Ranjan Ben's life. And I have no doubt has contributed to whatever has been achieved, spiritually speaking, and on all other levels in Dallas. And so this expression that we sometimes use, that only the molasses and the bag containing the molasses know how sweet the molasses is. And so that's the thing with Ranjan, who works, I think, in a very incognito way. Baba knows, Daddy knows, and those who are close to her also know. So big thanks, Ranjan Ben. Yeah, it's it's about 9:15 my side of the world. I'm an hour away from you, an hour ahead of you when it comes to time. And I'm wondering, are you all zoomed out yet? Have you, how many months now? It's been about 8 months, and this is the way that we're meeting each other. There was something that was, going back many, many years ago. to one of the first meditation centers in London. It was called Baba Bhavan. And this would have been in the late 70s, I guess. And we were having a public program there. Daddy Janki was there too. And I remember one gentleman, he became very upset. Why he became upset was because we were using microphones. And for him at that time, a microphone was other than spiritual, that he could not associate spirituality with the need for a microphone. And he actually left. And so rather we have come to see the usefulness of technology in terms of what it is that we're trying to accomplish in the world to fulfill the request from God, and to use it to whatever extent, but we're also cautioned not to become dependent upon it. And technology, like anything else, you know, everything has its light and dark, everything has its positive and its negative. And so again, you can't say there's anything wrong with technology. There isn't. It would ultimately have to be the users thereof, what way I choose, in what way I choose to use it. Someone had sent out something the other day, and it was that classic picture of, you know, the monkeys, the 3 monkeys, but in this instance there were 4 monkeys, and it was, you know, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And the 4th monkey was on a laptop, and it was post no evil. And so, yeah, but again, Daddy used to say, as Ranjan will remember, that she also spoke of 4 monkeys. So not just the hear, see, and speak no evil, but think no evil, because that is of course, the precursor to the others, to the seeing, to the speaking, to the listening. So first of all, let me wish you all a happy new year. Of course, Diwali has just passed, and I never cease to notice the similarities in all of the world's religious traditions, and not least this one, and the idea of light overcoming dark and endings and beginnings. And so whether I go to my own tradition, which is Celtic, and the Druids, and, you know, the darkest night and then the light coming, or where you have, say, in Judaism, the lighting of the menorah. So you will have one main light, and then all the other lights are lit from that main light, not from each other, but from the main light. You have that same idea in Christianity at another time of the year, when they light what is called the Paschal candle, huge one. And in the Celtic tradition, what they did on that darkest night, and the 2 festivals fall around about the same time. You would know it better as Halloween. That's where it came from. But all the fires in all of the homes would be put out. They would be allowed to die. And then one new fire was lit, you know, a communal fire. And then everybody would take a stick from that fire and go and light in their own fireplace, in their own home. So this is something I don't doubt started in India as a memorial, and then it has seeped through to the other traditions as well. And so we might look different on the outside, we might have apparently different rituals, but really there's one source. There's one source. We all left that source and then took on different garbs and costumes and identities and socialized in different ways and had different cultures. But ultimately, we realize, hey, it's time to go back. It's time. My flame, the flame that I am, has dimmed, and it's been dimmed. And I see it in the form of whether it's disappointments or regrets or hopelessness or depression or whatever else. And sometimes it does require a little bit of a tragedy to change the trajectory of our journey. But at the end of the day, we are all on the same journey. Some haven't started to go back yet, but they will. That each one has their time and each one will get there, because they cannot rekindle their flame until they connect with the source. And unless and until we do, then there will be further disappointments and further unhappiness, and mainly a lack of clarity as to what the heck all of this is about. And so Ranjan Ben had wanted me to share my story. I don't know, in some ways it feels like as if it's a previous incarnation that I'm telling you about. And so maybe it will resonate with someone, maybe it'll give some insight somewhere. But you know, my upbringing was in Ireland, and even at a young age, somehow I knew about reincarnation. Wasn't part of my tradition. And then when I started my spiritual search, if you like, definitely my leanings were towards the East, because there were just certain things that I intuitively knew. And so the idea of karma, the idea of reincarnation, somehow even the idea, although I wasn't able to do it at that time, the idea of the diet that Hindus had, all of that resonated with me. And so of course now we know there are memories of past incarnations that the soul carries with it into its different lives. So I traveled a lot. I traveled extensively. I saw myself as, I didn't see myself as a traditionalist. I felt I was a very free spirit. And so my life took me to many, many parts of the world. And whereas at the time I might have thought that it was just in search of adventure and newness and curiosity, always huge curiosity, and open to newness. But whilst I was in West Africa in 1975, 76, and I had explored many different things, but one thing that I absolutely knew for sure, that even though I would go to various spiritual gatherings, but if in those gatherings anyone said, "Let us pray," then I was looking for the door, because the soul knew that the prayer part of my journey had finished. I wasn't looking to bow my head and make some kind of a plea to this being. That much I knew. And so at that time, I realized too that it wasn't just that I was adventurous and curious, which was my nature, but that I was actually looking for God. And that was a realization. And I might put the two things together, and that was truth. and God. I didn't necessarily see them as distinct from one another. So fast forward, I'm in London, back in London, mid-1976, and I'm looking for, although I'd been doing Hatha Yoga for many years, but I was looking for meditation. There was this thing in my soul that knew that it was about silence. And at that time, you know, meditation had just started to become known by my generation, and had been influenced, I guess, by the Beatles going to India. So what was his name? I've forgotten the guru's name. He's died some years ago, but anyway, he influenced the Beatles and various other paths. He was the one, I think, that was teaching, you know, with a mantra. But again, something in me rejected the idea that you should have to pay for spirituality. It didn't seem right. And then one day I was listening to the radio, and I heard someone who many of you may also know. Her name is Sister Jayanti. And it wasn't that Sister Jayanti was saying this meditation was free. It was her voice that seared into my soul. And I went along to their center in London. It was a tiny little tenement house, and in Kilburn, in a not very prestigious part of the city. And again, even though I was attracted by the fact that there were no prayers, there was no chanting, there was no rituals. And the big surprise was that it was women who were teaching. Now, who would have thought? We only ever knew that it was men who were the gurus, who were the spiritual leaders. So this was something surprising for me. And along with that, their extreme generosity. And this is where I met Daddy Janki within, it was the days of Janmashtami, actually. I knew nothing about Janmashtami, but it was in those days. And meeting Daddy Janki the first time had a profound impact on me. No need to go into the detail of that meeting, but it wasn't with introductions. It was a pure experience that I had of this soul, and I know it's an eternal relationship. And despite maybe even her best efforts at trying to get me to understand the philosophy that they were teaching, I was a little bit reluctant, because one thing I did not want to do, and that was become part of any group. Because I felt that if you became part of a group with a particular belief system, then it closed you to everything else. And I felt I was very open and I accepted everything. But of course, I was missing something. Anyway, fast forward again, 4 months later, I went to India. I didn't even know there was a small group. There weren't too many students. These were the early days of the Brahma Kumaris' work out of India. And there was a small group. And interestingly enough, all of the people at that time were Westerners. Maybe in the morning class, you would have about 25, 30 students, and maybe only 3 or 4 Indians, Bharatwasis. And so things have changed a lot. But anyway, in going to Mount Abu, and I went by myself and I met up with the others there. And once again, without getting into the detail of it, I had such a profound experience. in meditation in what is called Madhuban in Mount Abu in January of 1977 that it dictated the rest of my life. And I could never have come to that realization and that state of bliss by myself, even though I used to think I'm very practical, I'm not totally unintelligent, I can think for myself, but my own imagination would never have taken me to the experience that I had on that particular day. And it's like suddenly all of the things that Daddy Janki had been trying to get me to understand, I knew that I really, really liked her. And but in terms of God, there wasn't that realization of God. And so in that experience, in the meditation of what in Hindi you say, Ati Indriya Sukh, the joy that's beyond the senses, total unparalleled bliss and love and lights radiating from me, and just how long did it last? I don't know. It could have lasted an hour. It might have been 60 seconds. I don't know. But it was so profound that it totally changed the shape of my intellect and of my heart. That's how dramatic it was. And I'm not saying it happens like that for everyone, but it was almost like God was saying, okay, you are misdoubting Thomas. You question everything. There's only one way you're going to get it. And it's not going to be the slow, plodding way. It has to be like getting smacked on top of your head. And so that made me come to the conclusion that I would from henceforth, be a student of the Brahma Kumaris when I would return to London, that I would find an apartment again, go back to work and become a daily student. That was as far as the commitment took me. But anyway, destiny has a strange way of working. There are things which you just can't account for. I ended up staying in India for 5 months and, with permission and totally as a member of the BK family. And I traveled my deepest sanskar. I traveled all over Punjab, but always staying at the center and studying and learning and meditating. And then finally it was time to come back to London. And once again, the thought was, now, I'll go back to work and continue with being a spiritual student. And once again, the destiny had other plans. And I went straight from the airport to the meditation center, to that little house. It was a Saturday evening and I met Daddy Janki. I was carrying some sweets, some tolis from a sister in Bombay to Daddy Janki. And so I was, very, what do you call it, that I really wanted to fulfill that commitment that I'd made, that I would hand deliver these to Daddy. And so I arrived there on the Saturday evening. It was dusk, and Daddy met me, and she knew of my transformation while I was in Madhuban. And she simply said to me, "Where are you going to stay tonight?" And I said, "Well, I'll stay with my brother." My brother lived, and his wife lived not too far away, and maybe about 15, 20 minutes bus ride away. And I said, I'm going to go stay with my brother. And Daddy said, you know, and Daddy knew all things, even the mundane things. She said, but you won't be able to get a bus tomorrow morning, because she knew that on a Sunday morning, the bus schedule was different. They started much later. And so as far as she was concerned, I couldn't get to class on time. So she said, why don't you stay here for a day or two? Meaning at the center, you know, I've just come off the plane. And she says, why don't you stay here for a day or two? Well, as I say, my sanskars, my nature, my experience was of being a traveler. And so stay here, stay there, it doesn't make any difference. And so I said, sure, Daddy, I'll stay for a couple of days. And that couple of days, you know the rest of the story, those of you who have been students for some time, that became the rest of my life. And I was there with Daddy, living with Daddy. And to begin with, it was just Daddy and Sister Sudesh and Sister Jayanti and me, of all people, the rebellious one, the one least likely to. I ended up staying there. And then after a period of about 6 years, not to get too into the detail of it, but there was a request, I'm giving you the short version, for a teacher to come to Tampa in Florida, because someone from there, a businessman, had discovered our teachings in Mexico, and he decided he wanted it for his community. And so he said, I will provide everything if you give me a teacher. And I kind of volunteered for a month. I had no aspirations for leaving Daddy Janki or leaving London. And Daddy said, okay, you can go for a month. And once again, the month became X number of years. And then another person who was a BK back in India, but was now in the Caribbean doing his business, and he wanted to shift to Miami. And he said to Daddy Janki, you know, I will move my business there when I know there's a center, a BK center. And so he and that other brother, Rick, got together, found a place, and Wadi was moved to Miami at Daddy's, on Daddy's direction, of course. And so I've been sitting in Miami, or this has been my place, if you like, in terms of an address where you can find me, or where my mail would come, since 1985. But from here, a lot of travel. It's interesting how, for the sake of Baba, or because I found what the soul was seeking, which means realization, means what I consider to be truth, what I consider to be the supreme, what I consider to be my path in life. Then I had no more interest in physical travel. I wasn't looking for anything anymore. But again, the destiny conspires, and it still keeps me traveling extensively. It's very, very easy for me to do that. I'm not averse to it at all. And so that in the capsule has been my BK life. And the thing is, it's my story, and thank you for giving me permission to tell it. And I'm quite sure that everyone who's on this call has a similar story. And none of our stories have reached their conclusion. We're always reaching a destination, but it's only so that we can then continue till the next destination. So I very much like this idea of being the pilgrim, that we are all on a journey, we're all on a pilgrimage, and you may or may not know by now that that journey will take you back to where you started from, but you will feel like as if you're there for the first time. And the beauty of the pilgrim, a sincere pilgrim, every day they begin the journey anew. They, like Daddy Janki says, I never look back. And really, if it's anything I've learned during this time of COVID, it is there is not time to look back. There is not time to have regrets. It's a little bit like, you know, you may record something on Zoom, or somebody has recorded something, you missed a class or something, and you think, okay, send me the recording and I'll watch it. There's never time to watch it, because there's always more and more and more things coming. And so this is that time for trying to move as lightly and as freely as possible, unencumbered by anything of the past, or of any possessions, or of even holding on to old ideas. They are no longer going to serve you. And so in this way, the pilgrim is always, doesn't know where he will lay his head one night, but the next morning he's fresh and ready for the new journey. And as you know, he doesn't carry anything. And maybe, but for what I see is maybe a little bag. And in that bag, the one thing that he has is a compass. And the compass, just like we know the compass always points in the one direction. So the compass that will ensure, even if you don't know the terrain or the territory or what you're going to encounter or who you're going to meet, but the compass that he has, that has served him even in other lifetimes, no matter what, is his love for God. And that will always ensure that you will keep moving in the right direction, and you will meet the right people, people from whom you have to learn, and people that you also will surely unconsciously be instrumental in teaching. And so this is the thing. It's many people will often say to me that they too are seekers of truth. And I'll ask them the question, and what are you going to do with it when you find it? And perhaps they hadn't even thought that far ahead. Because if you know you have the truth, then there is an obligation and a responsibility that comes with that. But it's not a heavy responsibility. It's like more like a duty that someone else will be responsible. God will be responsible. But in your fulfilling it, then it adds to your growth and creates power that can also then radiate and touch others and open them to the truth of their being and what their purpose is. And I think this is something is I hear a lot is like, what is my purpose? I don't know that your purpose is any different from my purpose at the end of the day. That it might be, you know, again, if my purpose is to give love, and I might express it by speaking, and you might express it by baking, who knows? And so one of the things I was thinking that at this this time, we know we're living in a very particular time. And you know, I had a little boy here the other day, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. And in the interim, he had started school. And he said, you know, Sister Wadi, I'm in a gifted class. I wasn't surprised, but I really feel that if your light is lit, or even if you're going towards the light at this time in the world, you are in a gifted class. In other words, you know, what do the teachers, why is someone put into a gifted class? It's not that the little boy has done anything. He's only like 5 years old, 6 years old. He hasn't accomplished anything. He hasn't proven anything. But being in a gifted class, spiritually speaking, I think it's kind of like time is saying, I need this caliber of soul at this particular time, not at another time. And so it's not only what you have or who you are, but it's as if the teacher, and for us, of course, time's a teacher, everything's a teacher, but the supreme teacher sees possibility in each one of you that you can accomplish in terms of his task. So you're not just accomplishing something for yourself, and it would be sufficient unto itself, but you are also part of a much bigger picture. And the artist, if you like, you could almost say is God. And you then are filling in a part of that picture that is going to result in the whole becoming divine and a world in which there's peace and there's creativity and there's goodness and there's kindness and there's respect and all of those things. So just know that with your light lit, that you are needed in order for the universe to complete itself. You are necessary. And when there is that intention and that inspiration, everything you need to help to get you there will automatically come to you like rain falling from the sky. So I think we reached our allotted amount of time. So I don't know, do we do a little meditation, and then if anybody has a question, will we do a meditation first, Ranjan Ben, or I don't know what they might have a question about.
Yes, if anyone has any questions for Sister Wadi.
Sister Bodhi, can you share, you wore first day the sari, which you had only one sari, and your business, can you share that?
First day you want to
Sorry.
start.
Whoops. Sorry, what was that I had what? Sari?
I heard you were one of the experience that you wore, first day you wore the sari was given by Jayanti, Sister Jayanti or somebody else. And you used to wash it in the morning, in a night and morning again you wear for the job and something like that. Remember?
No, I don't think so. I first wore a sari, and again, I would have been so anti-uniform. The idea of wearing a uniform, that you look like everybody else and you have to, conform, that was not me. And this is why I'm so amused by God, because he changed all these things in me, where I would insist this. And he showed me, no, you can go beyond that. You can go beyond that. But I do have to mention that, and for many, many years, and it wasn't just that I was trying to copy Daddy Janky, but we were the only two that I could see that wore cotton saris for many, many, many years. And it was Jyoti Ben from Dubai who came to Miami at one point, and I was telling her how when I would travel, that the cotton sari didn't hold up very well, and that it would get wrinkled very quickly. So she showed me how to wear a nylon sari. And the same thing, when I first went to India, I went wearing jeans, normal attire for a young person from London in those days. But I have to say that because most of those 5 months were spent between either Mount Abu and Punjab, I put on quite a bit of weight and I couldn't fit into my jeans coming back. So I came back to London in a sari with my backpack on my back. Yeah, so that was how it happened. Yeah.
Beautiful. I like what you shared, and I'm sure everyone enjoyed.
Just one of the things that I want to try and get across, that no matter who you are or what you are, what your background is, whether you're very disciplined or whether you're not very disciplined, whether you're an intellectual or whether you're simple, that you have a place here. This is part of the beauty. And I have to say one thing, in that first week when I went to do the foundation course with the Brahma Kumaris, then even though I didn't accept the teachings to begin with, or most of them, because I didn't understand them either, but the one transformation that happened within 7 days and never regretted and never changed, I became a vegetarian. Yeah. And so just to say that, within what it is that God teaches through Brahma Baba in particular, what an amazing, amazing soul. And those that were his first students and subsequent students, that there's a place for everyone. It doesn't matter how good or bad you think you are, because we all share components of each other. None of us are the highest, none of us are the lowest, but here you find a way to adjust yourself, but the main adjustment is in your way of seeing, which then influences your way of being. And it's a very beautiful life. I have to say, thank you, God. Thank you, Destiny.
Finding God and finding truth makes everything so easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Ranjing.
So, any other question? Has any question?
Om Shanti Vadi Ben.
Gee, who's that?
Gopal Bhai.
Oh, how are you?
Bhai. Ben, can you share your experience first meeting with Baba, and did you accept that time, or
No.
is take a time to, and what make you believe that he's the truth?
Right. I'm assuming that it's all students who are on the call. Is it Ranjan then?
I think so. Those are new. those have
But even those who are new. Okay, so
Yeah.
let me share that with you because I've never forgotten it. Remember, I went by myself to India, even though there was a gathering at that time in Bombay, as it was called in those days. And so the London class had gone as a group, but I didn't travel with a group. I went solo. And everybody knew that I wasn't going as a fully qualified BK. I had not fully accepted. I was still in my seeking mode, but I knew that in order to make a determination about the Brahma Kumaris, that I had to go to the source, that I had to go to Madhavan. And maybe it was a memory, I don't know. But anyway, so, and I really am wanting, there's a part of me desperately wanting that realization, that revelation, whatever it is, but I knew I couldn't fool myself. So now what I hadn't done, even though I was there and people knew that I wasn't as committed to this path or to the Murli or anything else as they were, but my plan was that if the Brahma Kumaris wasn't home for me, then I was going to travel around the rest of India. No big deal. And but I hadn't shared this with anybody because none of them were my pals. They were just a group of people. And anyway, Baba had come one night when I was there, and this scenario was being enacted out in the meditation hall. That was what there was. It was pre-Om Shanti Bhavan. And perhaps Baba came, and I think I remember some sense of disappointment. So then the next time Baba came, which was probably 2 days later, it was our turn to meet Baba, right? So it was Wadi's turn. I don't even remember what I was wearing. I definitely was not wearing a sari, believe me. And I went in front of Baba, and the first thing Baba said to me was, "Have you made up your mind yet?" And I said, "No." I remember I don't know, or I haven't realized that this is who it is. All I know is this being is saying to me, "Have you made up your mind yet?" And I was like, "Well, how do you know that I hadn't made up my mind?" I said, "No." And then Baba says, "You realize this path is the highest." And I said, "Yes," because that I had realized it was the highest I had come across. I said, "Yes, but maybe I'm not the highest." And Baba said this to me. This was not a teaching for the world. This was to me personally. And it wasn't, I didn't quite understand it at the time. It took me more than 30 years to understand it. So when I said yes, I realized it's the highest, but maybe I'm not the highest. Baba said, as long as you're not married, you're the highest. And then he held up his finger and he said, remember, I hadn't told anybody about my plans. He said, don't go wandering here and there, or you will lose. That was my first meeting with Baba. I don't know anybody else that ever had a first meeting with Baba like that. But then it was after that, wasn't during the meeting that I had the realization. It was just in a meditation with a very powerful yogi. And years later coming to realize, and then maybe we can finish with that. I used to have one recurring nightmare, and that was that I was in the church. I was at the altar rails, and I was the bride. I could never see the face of the groom. And we were getting married. And the priest said, I now pronounce you man and wife. And I would wake up horrified. You know, really, it was like a nightmare for me, a recurring nightmare. And I would wake up almost in a sweat. Oh, thank God, it was only a dream. And even for many, many years in my Brahmin life, I would have that same recurring dream until I made the connection. I don't have it anymore. I made the connection between that and what Baba said to me and what I had promised to God in another incarnation. That I had promised God in another incarnation that when I finally surrender to you, you know, or when I meet you, I will surrender to you and to no one else. And so this then for me was that when Baba said to me, you know, as long as you're not married, because he remembered the oath that I had taken to him in another incarnation, and he was reminding me of it, but I'd forgotten. And then, you know, drama showed me very, very clearly that, you know, that was the promise I'd made, that I would be his and only his in this one incarnation, and that he would provide, like a good husband, he would provide everything that I needed to fulfill my destiny and to fulfill the vision that he had for me. Such is the husband, the father, the teacher, the friend. Om Shanti.
So beautiful, right? We want to keep hearing you, but yes, I think
It's bedtime
when the
for me.
lockdown is open, you would come personally and share more, right?
Yeah.
I know it's your 10 o'clock and now we don't want to keep you late.
Yes.
And so let's go ahead and meditation. Thank you.
Will I just give a short commentary or Ranjan?
Yeah, whatever you want, right? Thank you. But
Just
thank you all for joining with us. And
yes.
I thank you, Sister Wadi, to make this time for us. And I know she
My
scheduled
great pleasure.
time. Thank you. Thank you so
So
much.
just the final thought of the light that never dims, the light that sees all and knows all, and that ultimately, when we're spent and afraid and thinking of home, he draws us back again, so that our light too can contribute, and not only to showing a path, but it is the light that radiates the warmth of love and of acceptance. This is the friend. Om Shanti. Thank you, Ranjan.
Om Shanti.
Ben.
So
Thank you,
much.
everyone,
Good night.
for
Thank
being
you.
with us.
Om
Thank you.
Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Thank you, Om Shanti.
Thank you, sister.
Thank you. Very well.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank
Good night,
you.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Happy New Year again.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. You want to play music or song or what? Michael Bye.
Inspiration for your life and love. Thank you for your recognition of the one above. Thank you for your sweet compassion, for your life of truth. Thank you for walking on this earth. Thank you for being you. The river flows back to the ocean. The trees turn back to dust. The sun must set as the day it ends, and so shall all of us. The gift of silence is returned.